So creatures. So last off, this is the last bit I am gonna look at in this book. I will be reading the into the rest of the book, and maybe I'll do a video giving a review or a breakdown of it. But for this stream, we're just gonna look through these creatures briefly, and then we're gonna call it a night. These seem to have calls to stories. Woodcutter's Axe, Cauldron, and Snickersnack. Yeah. As I said, I haven't actually read the whole book, but it is based on this adventure, and so maybe in this adventure there is stuff. There are callbacks to, you know, Alice in Wonderland, and yeah, Woodcutter's Axe could be the Little Red Riding Hood and stuff like that. So maybe there are some like nods to stuff in our culture. So throughout this little Feywild adventure, once I've read it, I will be able to let you know. But at the moment, I don't. I just thought I'd have a quick look in the contents in case there's something obvious. You know, like it says Alice in Wonderland, but it doesn't look like there is. There's lost children there, but I don't think that says much. Yeah, I have no idea, but I will have a look and see if there are some nods to stories from our world, like Little Red Riding Hood and Alice in Wonderland. Okay, so let's have a look through the creatures. And so this first one, the Boggle, isn't a new creature. It was in... oh, what was it in? I think it was in Mordenkainen's Monster Guide book, so it's not a new one. I like this in the book. I can't remember it off the top of my head, so I don't know if they've changed it here. But yeah, it's got some pretty cool abilities here. I thought that was duplicated there, but they are two different things. So yeah, I'm not going to go too much into this one because it is a new one. It isn't a new one, sorry. Okay, so we got the Brickanog, which is this little bad boy here. It's only a challenge rating 1/8, so not very powerful. Okay, so the Brickanog is accompanied by an insubstantial, invulnerable ball of light that contains its soul. So this ball of light here. Soul 10 foot. Okay, so that's an interesting idea that their soul is outside of their body. They're a tunneler, so they can make good tunnels. They've got a pickaxe attack. They've got some spell casting, so none of which are combat based by the looks of it. They're all, yeah, animal friendship, fairy fire, nothing that's going to help too much. Time lapse. The Brickanog accelerates the passage of time around itself, enabling it to accomplish up to an hour's work within a matter of seconds. This work can't affect any creature other than the Brickanog, or any object being worn or carried by another creature. So that's interesting that they are bringing time play with it. So in case you didn't know, when you go to the Feywild traditionally, it messes around with time. So if you went to the Feywild for 1 day and then came back to the material plane, it might have actually been 2 months, or it could have been 1 second. So this is a Feywild creature that also plays with time, which is quite interesting. And as a bonus action, it can move its soul light. Cool. I like that. He looks pretty crazy as well. Very Feywild-esque. Okay, so we've got some Bullywogs here. So they are in the monster manual already, but it looks like there's some variations. So there's a Bullywog Knight, which is challenge rating 3. Let's have a quick look and see. So it's got a glaive that it does some damage with, and a Croak of Charming. So it can make a loud croak and target one creature, which must make a wisdom saving throw or be charmed. Okay, I have a feeling that this little story is going to be mental. Very Feywild. There's also a Bullywog Royal, which also is challenge rating 3 and has a croaked decree. So the Royal makes a loud pronouncement, and any ally gets advantage on the first attack roll on its next turn. Nice. So that's very different to the traditional Bullywogs from the monster manual, that they are some sort of chivalry knights. But yeah, it's different. It's interesting. They, the D&D team, the Wizard of the Coast team, are always creative with what they made. They made some pretty mental creatures in the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. And talking about mental creatures, this is a mushroom. So, campestries, I don't know how to say that. So that is just a mushroom, sort of looks like Toad from Mario. It is a challenge rating 0, but it does have a headbutt that does 1 bludgeoning damage. It also has some spores that okay, so and they have no effect on these creatures, but you have to make a DC 10 Wisdom saving throw, and on a failed save, you're incapacitated for 1 minute. That's actually, you know, pretty nasty. These would be quite good little guys to put in a combat environment, but not really the focus. So while you're fighting something else, there's these little tiny plants that are moving 5 foot per turn, so they're only moving 1 space towards you and then exploding out some spores that might incapacitate you, which would be pretty nasty. And then there's also a swarm of them down here, which puts their challenge rating up to 1, and just looks like their headbutt actually does damage because there's a load of them headbutting you, and the radius is bigger. Interesting. So yeah, some more mushrooms, but some above ground mushrooms here rather than the myconids that are in the Underdark in the monster manual. So we've got Darklings that have already been introduced in Volo's guide, I think. So they are just little fey creatures that are good at slashing things. I think, in fact, in Volo's guide there is a Darkling and a Darkling Elder as well, if I remember rightly. So nothing new is actually added here. Just, I assume they're in the adventure somewhere, so they had to include them in the compendium, or they would force people to have to buy Volo's guide to see these. And a giant dragonfly, which is actually really giant, it's large. Usually when something is giant, it only goes up one size, but I would say a normal dragonfly is tiny, so it's gone tiny, small, medium, large. And look at it, there's someone firing a bow. It's only a half challenge rating, and it doesn't really do much. It does a little bit of an attack, but not too much. But yeah, you can now have a giant dragonfly mount. And it is a large beast, so if you are a ranger, you can get that as a companion, I believe. Or if you're a druid, you can turn it into a giant dragonfly, if you so wish. And a giant snail as well, another large beast. This one's 1/4. It's got slam and shell defense, and it's got salt osmosis. So contact with a pound or more of salt, it takes damage, because we all know snails hate salt, so you can just chuck salt on it and it will slowly take necrotic damage until it dies. And yeah, nice little bit of art here to show how big a giant snail can be. Okay, so Helm Guns, we looked earlier at the race that you can be, but it looks like they've added some stats here if you just wanted to pull one out and use it in your game. So yeah, there's a sniper and a brigand. So they got pack tactics, they've got the standing leap, and yeah, club and sling, nothing too crazy in that one. Let's see what the sniper can do. It looks like it just gets a crossbow that it has some additional abilities for, so nothing crazy. But yeah, in case you've only just came to the stream and you didn't see earlier, you can now become one of the, or you can now make a character that is one of these, and they're like rabbit folk. Okay, so the Jabberwocky, or Jabberwock, sorry, I keep saying Jabberwocky, the Jabberwock. So let's see what it does. So it's challenge rating 13, so pretty big challenge rating. It's got a confusing burble. So you roll and has to DC 18 charisma saving throw, which is pretty big. And then on a failed save, the creature can't take reactions and has to roll a d4 to determine what it does. It can either do nothing except use its movement to move in a random direction. The creature either makes one melee attack against a random creature it can see, or does nothing if no visible creature. So this, yeah, sort of similar to the confusion spell in a way. But yeah, I don't think any other creatures sort of go down the route of confusion, so that's interesting. It's got some legendary resistances. It's got regeneration, which is always hard to deal with for a player. Uncanny tracker, so it's good at tracking things. And then multi-attack, it's got 2 rend attacks, which are pretty nasty, plus 10 to hit and an average of 21 damage. It's got tail and fiery gaze, so this is very long, so it emits a 120 foot long, 5 foot wide line of fire from its eyes. Each creature in that line takes quite a lot of damage, so that's pretty nasty. Recharges on a 5 and 6, and then it's also got legendary actions, which are just tail attack, rend attack, and wing attack. And then here's a little bit of art for it. So yeah, pretty nasty. Also, just mentioned here, if a Jabberwock is slain, another one appears 3d8 years later. So basically, you kill one, another one is turning up soon. Okay, so Core Red we've had before as well. I think they were in Volo's guide, or maybe Mordenkainen's guide. But yeah, we've definitely had these before, and basically they use their hair to do stuff. Like command hair. As you do. So we'll move on from that one because it's not a new one. Living doll, exactly what you need in your game is a living creepy little doll. So it's challenge rating 2. Okay, so it's got false appearance, so you don't know it's an animated doll. Regeneration as well, okay, which is interesting. And it's got grabby hands, so +2 to attack, and a bit of psychic damage, and a very easy to escape grapple check. It's only DC 6, which isn't too hard. And as a bonus action, it can cackle, so it can target 1 or 2 creatures within 30 feet that have to do DC 11 Wisdom saving throw. Succeeding automatically if it has an intelligence of 4 or lower, takes some psychic damage, and is incapacitated with laughter. At the end of its turn, the creature can repeat the saving throw. Okay, so it just makes people laugh and become incapacitated, which makes it even more creepy. No, thank you. Yeah, you could chuck a load of them at your party quite early on and make a proper creepy experience for them. Okay, so Quickling are another one that I think they were in Folos as well. So they're just really quick. They've got speed of 120 feet and do little stabby attacks that don't do much damage but have quite good to hit because they've got a +6 dex. And red caps are also in Volos as well. So not new. They're crazy little garden gnome looking things that yeah, hit you with a sickle and are mental. And this looks like this is the last creature, and it is Gleam and Glister high elf twins. So rather than a creature, these are actual characters or actual people. They've got challenge rating 2. So it's quite interesting that they've put the stat block here together rather than 2 separate ones, one for Gleam and one for Glister. So they've got the Fate Ancestry that you can get from a race. They've got Regeneration. They've got a Twin Blonde. So while both are alive and on the same plane of existence, they are aware of each other's emotions, which is interesting. So they've got a Dagger Attack, a Moon Ray, which Gleam can do. Which is Wisdom saving throw, or be transformed to a bat, as if they were polymorphed. Okay, that's interesting. And then Sunray, which is to a Wisdom saving throw, will be blinded. And Twin Sight, Okay, so that's just they can tell each other alive and see through each other. So I'm interested here that they didn't give any sort of rules on what happens when the hit points go down. Because the players could be like, I want to hit the one on the left or the one on the right, or I want to hit Gleam rather than Glister. So how do you deal with that? Do you, just force them to hit both and do 33 hit points? Seems a little bit, it doesn't seem smooth. That I'd probably do it that they both have 16 hit points each, and so if they said they wanted to target one, they would target one to get the 16 hit points to 0, and then the other one would continue fighting and only be able to do their own abilities. Let's have a quick look up here to see. No. Okay. So I was just seeing if it had any rules up here, but it doesn't. It says there's some additional role-playing notes in Appendix D. What are these? I haven't even looked at what. Oh, role-playing cards. Oh, that's interesting. So it gives you little cards. So when a DM is role-playing characters, you have a little card that you can go to. That's a good idea. They haven't done that before in a book, I don't think. Okay, cool. So that's all the creatures anyway. Quite a lot of creatures that have been done before, Jabberwock being the biggest creature that's been added. The rest of them are all a little bit of fun, but yeah, nothing too exciting or nothing too crazy for me. I'm just quickly going to go and have a look at what the other appendixes are, because there's those role-playing cards which are quite cool. Factions, let's have a quick look at the factions then. So they've got the Hourglass Coven, which I'm guessing is a Hags Coven. So it's 3 Hags. Okay, and it gives you stat blocks here for the Hags. So let's have a look through the Hag stat blocks quick. Or well, this one at least, with a bit of crazy art here. Okay, so we've got a challenge rating 7. Immune to any effect that would age her. Creature within 10 feet of her uses at least 10 feet of movement to run in place. Counterclockwise is overcome with a fit of sneezing. What? So if a creature uses 10 feet of its movement to run in place counterclockwise, she will start sneezing and can't cast spells until the end of her next turn. That is crazy. That is the craziest thing. So I'm guessing in the adventure you can find out this information from someone and get a little bit of, know a bit of a weakness. Okay. Fair enough. So it's also got the bite attack, a withering ray, which is just a necrotic ray attack. Create lawnings, so creates 1 or 2 quick. Okay, so just the quicklings that we just looked at can create one of them, and has some spell casting here as well. And bonus action swallow, so it can swallow a small or smaller creature that she is grappling, and then it has all of the rules here for a swallowed creature, like some of the other creatures in the game have. So the art is creepy as hell and pretty horrendous. But yeah, that is really interesting that they've put that detriment there. That if you just run around in place, it will cause her to sneeze. There you go. Okay, so they do have more hags as well. So they've got this one, which once again has some pretty creepy art. So let's see what special stuff she has here. So Eclipse Doom can be killed only if she's reduced to 0 hit points during a solar eclipse, or while she is in 60 feet of a symbol representative of 1. Otherwise, just disappears into inky smoke and reappears in 24 hours in the same location. So you could technically trap her in. Okay, she's got a Puppeteer's Lash, which is just the basic attack by the looks of it. Okay, so if the target is larger or smaller, she can kinetically move them by 10 feet. It's interesting. And then got some spellcasting here, so got polymorph, but nothing too crazy in the combat. And then the third hag, once again, some crazy art. In fact, does she have a key in her back? She does. She has a key in her back, so that's a bit crazy. And she's got forgetfulness. So the first creature that sees after she finishes the long rest to her, she can't remember seeing the creature or perceive it using her true sight. Okay, so another detriment there, like the first one. Has some spells here, none of which are combat, really, except polymorph. And she's got claws, and then bonus action, she can shrink herself to a tiny size or return to her normal size. If she lacks the room to her normal size, she attains the maximum possible size. Anything she's carrying also goes tiny. As a tiny creature, she deals 1d4 poison damage when she hits a claw attack. She has advantage. Okay, so she can go tiny, so that's what this picture is. She's gone tiny on a little toy play horse. Fair enough. So they're the Hags of the Hourglass Coven. Let's see. Okay, so they have got League of Maleficents, and they've got some stats here as well. So they got this old guy, Kelek, who he's got braces of defense and staff of striking. So it's got a staff of striking information here. It's got a sorcerer's bolt, fiery explosion, which is a 20-foot radius fireball basically, but does a bit more damage, and it also has some spells. And then as a reaction has an arcane defense, so when it's hit by attack, protects himself with an invisible area. So basically shield. So that is a spellcaster, challenge rating 5, not many hit points. Oh, next one. Some pretty cool art there. So it has challenge rating 2, has an Eldritch Staff, which we looked at earlier, I believe. So it can do the attack from the Eldritch Staff here. Has some spell casting, none of which are overly combat, and then has a reaction that she can expend. Okay, so that's just the Eldritch Staff ability there, where she can go invisible and teleport away. And then there is the War Duke, which, look at him. He looks like it looks a bit like Pantheon from League of Legends, if any of you play League of Legends. Has a Dread Helm that we looked at earlier, and a Flame Tongue Longsword. So they can be used to destroy the cauldrons, we found out. So you could go find War Duke if you needed to destroy the cauldron. And all of his abilities are Flame Tongue, Dagger, Flaming Blade, and then Second Wind, which is the same as the fighter ability. Zarak looks pretty nasty. Medium orc. So what does he get? He gets Potion of Invisibility he's carrying. So it's interesting that they're also adding in here what they're carrying. So if your players killed them, you know what would be on their belongings. They got Dagger and a Garrote, so that's if they're grappled, they do more damage. Assassin's Whims has a bonus action. It can do dash, disengage and hide like a rogue, and uncanny dodge just like a rogue as well. Okay, so last one of this group is Zargash, who is challenge rating 3, cling to life, so when he drops to 0 hit points he comes back with 1 hit point. Has a Ring of Feather Falling, has a Warhammer, Death Ray, some spell casting, and animate corpses. So it's interesting, got a Warhammer and magic stuff. Is that the Warhammer? That looks more like a staff to me. Can't actually see the Warhammer on the art. It's got a little morning star there, little pick there. But yeah, they're all of the ones from the League of Maleficents. Let's go to Valor's Call. Elkhorn, so this little dwarf guy has a dagger, multi-attack, and a longsword of +1. Feint, so he has advantage on the next attack roll as a bonus action and deals extra damage. Also has second wind, just like the fighter. Mercion is a human cleric, so has multi-attack with a quarterstaff and a divine radiance. Has radiant fire as well, which is like a fireball, and also has some pretty handy spells. Has Cure Wounds, Revivify and Death Ward, which are all nice spells to have in a combat scenario. Maliva looks like a rogue, so it has Uncanny Dodge, Levitate by the Boots of Levitation here. Short Sword even, and Dagger here as well, which deal additional damage. So yeah, has sneak attack basically. So that is your standard rogue, but with Boots of Levitation, and also has +1 leather armor. Wrinkle one is a wizard if I ever seen one. Has a Staff of Power, which is pretty nasty because as with the Staff of Power, as you can see, you get a lot of spells. You get Lightning Bolt, get Wall of Force, Cone of Cold, Fireball, and he also has some of his own spells up here as well as a Freezing Ray down here. So yeah, he's pretty only challenge rating 5, but I would say if you don't kill him quick, he's going to be decimating the party. But he does only have 12 armor class and 42 hit points, so relatively easy to kill. Yeah, interesting. So I don't know anything about the story, but I assume each of these factions come into it and each of these people come into it. There's also Strong Heart, the last one, so has Steel, which we looked at earlier. Has a Sentient Longsword, has Revivify, and has his own spells, and also has Protect Other, which looks like the protection fighting style. Okay, so I think they are actually all of the creatures in the book, because we went through all the creatures, we've gone through all the factions.